my food, which is like a dagger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any cook and chef. This has to be by far the hardest season of competition ever in the history of the show. It just seems like this one was a lot different because everybody made it past Restaurant Wars or runner-up, or they've competed in a lot of different challenges. So it just made it a lot more difficult, I think, this season than any previous seasons I've seen or witnessed.
Did you feel like you approached the season of Top Chef differently than the previous 2 seasons you've been on?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I went into it, relying on obviously my repertoire and dishes and things that I feel really comfortable with that are dishes I feel like that represent me as a chef, and I want to make sure that my plates, my dishes, and the food that I was cooking, as much as possible, were adapted to the challenge versus just trying to make up dishes on the fly. Like I wanted to make sure I was going to be cooking smart, that I was going to be able to finish within time limits. That I was going to give myself the ample amount of time to taste and try things and not just do things quickly. My goal was to win quickfires this time, and it still didn't work out.
So, obviously, that was our least favorite dish.
I'm just really methodical cook and chef, and so I have to try things over and over again before I'm happy with them. So I think sometimes that's why in the quickfires I don't do so well.
What was your favorite dish that you made this season?
To be honest with you, the one that I really loved and enjoyed the most was the lasagna dish that I did for the second to last course of my menu. I had a pretty tough critique last week.
There were a lot of the Italian chefs who said there's no heart or soul in this dish.
And I don't know if it was lost in translation, because, I've been also seeing what people were saying from, who are the viewers of the competition, the people who are watching the show. This whole thing about there not being a lack of soul in my food, which is like a dagger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any cook and chef. Even from a home cook up to a professional, that's like the worst thing you could ever hear, right? I think somehow it was translated incorrectly, but maybe not, because I feel like my food has a lot of heart and soul in it. But regardless of that, it made me really want to do a dish in the last cook that I probably would not have done unless I heard that comment. And so this lasagna dish meant a lot to me because, my mother is a working mother, made sure that we had dinner on the table, 5:30, we're going to sit around as a family and we're going to enjoy that. And, lasagna was one of their favorites. So it's something that means a lot to us. And it's a very, Italian-American thing, the way that, that we, present it in our home, the simple cheese lasagna or maybe with bolognese. And in this case, I did one with wild mushrooms and a wild boar bolognese. And it was delicious. It was, I think, one of the best dishes I put forward, even though it was simplistic in form.
It's interesting you say that comment, about not cooking with love or passion, how it propelled you to...
Sure,
yeah.
Maybe one of your questions.
Yeah.
I knew it would be.
Well, I just think it's interesting that it kind of influenced you to create this lasagna dish, which was obviously, a big hit and such a success in the final challenge. But I feel like a comment like that could really mess with your head, too. How did you, did it mess with you at all? And, how did it kind of...
Well, it didn't throw me... No, it didn't. It didn't. It made me think about the food that I was going to cook, to sort of, lay back on sort of a modernist technique and form, I think that a lot of people know my food as being. I think I cook very clean and modernist in some ways, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't heart and soul involved in those dishes, and I don't know if they look cold and feeling, because of that, and so I want to make sure when I was going into this last cook in a very important challenge that I was going to be able to show a lot of my personality through my food.
And just standing in that judges table right before the final challenge, what's going on through your mind? You're technically in the bottom 2, so close to the finale. How are you feeling? What are you thinking about?
I was nervous because there's a lot of better pressure. I think a lot of people are probably looking at this as, there's a whole 3 times a try. I've heard so many different things, you know what I mean? So many different people. And trust me, that was in my head, I felt like I owed it to not only myself, but my family, going away for a 3rd time to do this, to try to get this.
Yeah. When you're standing in that final judges table, what's going through your mind at that point?
No, I mean, I felt like I definitely had a chance. You know, there's always critiques on all sides, because there has to be. So it's really tough to figure out what's going through their head.
And so when you hear that, you know, Melissa is top chef, what goes through your mind at that point?
I was very happy for her, because she did, you know, an amazing job. You know, she's a great cook. She's a talented chef, and she was a great competitor. And she competed with, you know, with grace, and you know, was an amazing friend now, and somebody I've gotten to respect. And so I was really happy for her. I mean, she fought for it, and she did a great job. You know, was I disappointed? Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? I wanted to win, and, you know, I was happy with the outcome. So I was happy with my performance and what I did, and, you know, the fact that I was able to be there for, you know, for the finale and cook through every challenge. You know, it was an honor, and I was, you know, excited that I was able to accomplish that at least.
I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about this, but, you know, obviously it's your third time in the finale, and not getting, you know, the Top Chef title. How difficult is it to go through this for a third time?
Yeah, I don't know if there'll ever be a fourth.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now. But, you know, it's been an incredible ride. It was a lot of fun, and I don't regret a moment. It was fantastic.
How would you say Top Chef has changed your life?
It changed my life in many ways. You know, I mean, I think everybody who's ever competed on the show has definitely had a huge influence in their career, and, you know, what they've been able to accomplish. I mean, for me, I've been able to touch so many people with food. You know, during COVID, of course, and this whole thing, it's been a disappointment, because this is when there's typically, you know, you're getting to meet a lot of new people who are coming through your restaurant and trying for the first time, and everybody wants to try your food because they're seeing you on the show. You know, so now I'm getting close to reopening, which is great. I can't wait. But, you know, it's also been able me to do a lot with charitable contributions. You know, even in Top Chef Masters, I worked with No Kid Hungry and Share Strength. Well, especially during these times, even more so, it had so many people, you know, that are unemployed, and, you know, everything that's going on with COVID. There's not a more important time than now to get children connected with food, and with schools out and everything else. I've been doing a lot to raise money with them, and I think Top Chef has helped enable me to touch a lot of people, not only through food in my restaurant, but also helping my community.
And what do you hope people remember about your food?
That it's full of heart and soul.